In this video, we're going to be looking at nominal and real GDP. Nominal and real are terms you may encounter in other classes or other chapters. Later, we'll talk about inflation or prices, interest rates. In this chapter, we're going to look at how they apply to GDP. So we're going to start off with some general definitions, and then I'm going to show you how to do some calculations. Inflation measures the rise of prices over time. Deflation is measuring the fall of prices over time. So in addition to producing more or less goods and services, we also have to deal with the fact that prices are changing. GDP is converted into a dollar value. So you may have the GDP of $1 trillion this year, a GDP of $2 trillion next year. And we want to know, does this mean we have more production? Are we making more stuff than we did the year before? And so we need to look at both nominal and real values. The nominal value or the nominal price might be the posted price of something or the actual price. If you go to the grocery store, you want to buy a box of cereal and you got a price tag of $5 for this box of cereal. That's going to be the nominal price, the posted price. The real price means we're actually adjusting for inflation using some kind of base here. You'll notice if you look at the same box of cereal 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it's not going to cost the same amount. Prices are increasing over time. And so we want to make sure that when we're looking at GDP over time, we're taking out that value of inflation so that we're measuring the actual increase in production. If all prices doubled from year 1 to year 2, let's say everything in this original economy was $5 and the next year it's $10, we haven't actually produced any more stuff. It's just costing more money. So we want to make sure that we're adjusting our nominal prices to real prices or real GDP so that we can accurately compare years. Sometimes we can do this looking at price index. So consumer price index, or the CPI, looks at a basket of goods over time. The quantity and quality is generally staying the same over time. The only thing that's changing is the price. And so we can use this CPI as a way of trying to measure overall inflation in the economy. We can also use a GDP deflator. This is just another type of tool or another index that's trying to look at the total value of all final goods and services and to take out any price changes. So the real price or real GDP is going to show if we have economic growth and a change in total production. So nominal GDP is going to measure the total value of goods produced in a year using that year's prices. So if we want to know GDP for 2023, we're going to take the price of everything in 2023, multiply it by the quantity of everything produced in 2023. That's going to give us the nominal GDP, the value of goods used using that year's prices. If we want to get the real GDP, we need to adjust for some measure of inflation. It could be we're adjusting to the year we're trying to compare to. It could be that we're adjusting all years to some base year comparison. But essentially, we're trying to take out inflation. We're trying to take out the effect of price changes or price increases so that really all we're seeing is the actual change in the level of production. A price index measures a specific collection of goods and services called a market basket. This is something that we can use to convert prices from one year to another. The consumer price index and producer price index are probably the two that are most widely used. They do not include all goods and services in the economy, and they tend to reflect one sort of aspect of economic life. Consumer price index, for instance, is going to try to look at how households are affected by inflation. One of the large things in the consumer price index is food. When you have high inflation, food might be going up. You see that people are spending a lot more money, but that doesn't mean our level of production isn't increasing. We're producing the same amount of stuff, just at a much higher price. How we use a price index is we take the price of a market basket in a specific year divided by the price of a market basket in the base year. We're going to pick some year of comparison. If we have a chart where we're doing some calculations, it might be the first year in the table. When you're looking at national GDP or national price indexes, often the basket is changed every 10 years or so. So there's going to be some sort of base year, or the year that we're using to normalize everything, to turn all of the prices into a real price. And then we multiply by 100. So we're going to get some sort of price index. It's going to be a number. And if prices haven't changed, if there's no inflation, basically no price change from the base year to the current year, you're going to get a price index of 100. 100 is sort of the baseline. Anything that gives you 100 means that prices are 100% of what they were in a comparison year. Let's say prices are increasing. Maybe we get an index of 110. That means prices have gone up 10% from the base year. Oftentimes, if the base year is several years in the past or quite a few years in the past, you can get a price index of, 250, 287, 364. So price index number can be anything. It's just telling you how much prices have changed from whatever the base year is in comparison. So oftentimes we're looking at 2 years to see what's going on with inflation, and neither of them are the base year. So we could see we have a price index of 250 in year 1, and in year 2 we have a price index of 275. If we're trying to figure out the inflation between these years, we just want to see how much did prices go up from year 1 to year 2. And we'll get into a little bit more of those calculations in our chapter about inflation. So the base year always has a price index of 100. Anything higher than 100 means prices have gone up. Anything lower than 100 means prices are going down. If you have a price index of 200, that means prices doubled from the base year to the comparison year. They're 200%, twice as much. So GDP, gross domestic product, represents the monetary value of aggregate output. To get this monetary value, we take the quantity times the price. In this example, we have a market basket that includes DVD rentals, movie admission, popcorn, and soft drinks. A market basket could be anything. If you're looking at one particular industry, it could just be the quantity or type of item sold in a particular year. On the next slide, we'll look at an example with only one type of good. But in this market basket, we've got 4 things. So we're going to say that we always have 4 rentals, 3 movie admissions, 3 popcorns, and 3 drinks. The cost of that basket is going to change over time. So we can see here we have 2007 prices, $2.25 to rent a movie. So the cost of this part of the basket was $9 in 2007. In 2008, the price of movie rentals went up to $2.97. So the cost of this basket went up to $11.88. Movie admission was $7.75 in 2007. We multiply that by 3, we get that the cost of this basket was $23.25. In 2008, prices went up to $8, multiply by 3, that gives us $24. You can see that the price of popcorn did not change. So $2.25 times 3 gives us a market basket cost of $6.75. The soft drink cost actually decreased. So it was $3 in 2007 and $2.75 in 2008. So when we're looking at a price index or a market basket, some prices are increasing, some prices might be decreasing, some might be staying the same. But we're looking at for sort of an average of what's happening with our economy. So when we add up the value of all the items in this basket in 2007, we get a value of $48. So we do price times quantity for all of these, and then we add these together. Okay, and then we do the same thing for 2008. So we can see that overall prices have gone up. So this basket of goods cost $48 in 2007, and in 2008 it cost $50.88. This doesn't mean that all prices went up equally. It just is saying on average what's happening with prices. Some stuff's getting more expensive, some stuff might be getting cheaper, some stuff might be staying the same. If we want to calculate the real GDP, we need to know some sort of price index, right? We want to multiply by 100. So we need to know what the basket is in the base year. Compare that to the basket in the current year. In this example, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at year 1 through 5, and we're going to say that this economy only produces pizza. So we're going to do a simpler example of a market basket. We're going to have only one good. In year 1, we have 5 pizzas. Price per pizza is $10. And year 1 is going to be our base year. Our price index is going to be 100. Year 2, we are selling 7 pizzas. Price of $20 each. Year 3, 8 pizzas at $25 each. Year 4, 10 pizzas at $30 each. And year 5 is 11 pizzas at $28. So with real GDP, we're trying to see, did our total production increase? Are we making more stuff than we did before? And when we have a very simple economy like this, when we're looking at just one item, you could see that our quantity is increasing, right? 5, 7, 8, 10, 11. The value of our real GDP is going up. We are producing more stuff every single year. But prices are also going up. So they doubled, they went up 25%. In year 5, they went down a little bit. So we also have significant price changes. To calculate the nominal GDP, so column 4, nominal GDP, you take the quantity times the price in each year. So 5 times 10 is equal to $50. Or year 3, we would say 8 times 25 is equal to $200. So nominal GDP is specific year quantity times specific year price. The adjusted real GDP, we want to use base year prices, or the price index. So we can calculate the price index by looking at the value of a basket of goods in a specific year divided by the value of a basket of goods in the base year. In this case, since we only have one item, we can use the price, right? We could say if the basket is one pizza, we could just use the price. Okay, so we would say specific year. So let's say year 3, the value of one pizza is $25 divided by the base year basket, which is $10. Gives us 2.5. And then we multiply by 100, and then this gives us a price index of 250. So prices went up by 2.5 times. Okay, so we could do that for all of these things to calculate the price index. In the base year, you would just do 10 divided by 10 times 100. Next year, 20 divided by 10 times 100. 25 divided by 10 times 100. Year 4, 30 divided by 10 times 100. And year 5, 28 divided by 10 times 100. We want to calculate our unadjusted or nominal GDP and our adjusted or real GDP. So to calculate your real GDP, we want to adjust for this price index. So you would say the nominal value divided by the price index and then multiply by 100. Okay, so 50 divided by 100 times 100 equals $50. The second year, we have nominal GDP of 140 and a price index of 200. So we would say 140 divided by 200, and then we always multiply by 100 to get us back into a normal dollar amount. Okay, so this is going to be equal to 70, which makes sense. So prices have doubled, so that means that our real GDP should be half of our nominal GDP. Or like in year 4, where prices are tripling, we get up to 300, our real GDP should be 1/3 whatever our nominal GDP is. So we can calculate that for the rest of this chart. This will be a good time if you want to pause. You can go through and try to figure out the nominal and real GDP for these last two, and then unpause and I will show you the answers. Okay, so our nominal GDP for year 4 is going to be 10 pizzas times $30, and we're going to get a nominal GDP of 300. And in our last year, we have 11 pizzas times $28, which gives us a nominal GDP of 308. Our real GDP, we want to adjust those for the price index. So year 4, we get 300 divided by our base year of 100 times 100. This is going to give us a real GDP of 100. And then our last year, $308 divided by 280 times 100 gives us a real GDP of 110. And we can check to see that that makes sense, because really all we're doing for this is converting everything into our base year price. So real GDP is just assuming that the price of all pizzas stays at $10. We're taking out this price change. So if you have 8 pizzas, you'd have a GDP of $80. 11 pizzas, a real GDP of $110. This becomes a little bit less obvious when you're looking at a basket of goods with multiple quantities, multiple items. So I'd like to show you here first to help you understand the connection and how these things are related. You can go back to our last slide here, and you can try to figure out the overall inflation. You could figure out the price index, right? If you assume 2007 is the base year, we want to know how much is inflation for 2008. So our basket of goods in our specific year is $50.88. We could say if 2007 is our base year, we're going to divide this by 48. Which gives us 1.06, and then multiply by 100, which is going to give us a price index of 106. And if we were trying to adjust 2008, this is going to give us our nominal GDP, but if we wanted to adjust this to a real GDP, we would say 50.88 divided by our price index of 106, and then multiply by 100. So 50.88 divided by 106 is 0.48, multiply by 100, and then you get $48. So these should be the same. The real GDP in both years should be the same thing because the quantity is not changing. The quantity of our basket is staying the same over time. The only thing that's changing here is the prices. On this slide, we have both the quantity and the price changing. And with our real GDP, we're trying to say, we don't care about the price change. We're trying to get at the real value of production. There are some shortcomings of GDP. So there's a lot of things that it's useful for. We use it to look at growth over time. It's used as a measure of standard of living. It's a way that we compare countries between each other, economies. the way that we compare our own internal growth domestically from one year to the next. But does GDP measure what we really want it to measure? Truly, it's just a measure of production and growth. How much we're producing as an entire country. It doesn't actually measure well-being or happiness. And so we have to try to think about, is this a good proxy for well-being or happiness? If incomes are going up, do we expect that people are happier or better off? GDP does not include a lot of things. For example, it doesn't include non-market activities. So it's only counting things that we're paying for. Household activities, household production doesn't count. And maybe we don't have a better life if we're paying someone else to do it rather than doing it ourselves. It also could mean that its GDP is very different from one year to the next if we're doing a lot of household production in one year and not another. It doesn't account for leisure, so how much we value free time, time with our family and friends and vacation. If it doesn't have a dollar value, if it's not something being produced and measured in GDP, it's not counted. Oftentimes it doesn't account for improved product quality. So it may be that you have a cell phone in your basket of goods for the CPI, but cell phones today are better than they were 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So improved product quality is not always measured, especially when we're looking at how it's just prices and quantities. GDP does not account for the underground economy, so any kind of black market activities, payments under the table, or the purchasing of things not officially recorded in GDP. Depending on the size of these activities, how much they impact quality of life, how much they impact personal household income, these could have a huge effect on well-being and happiness that's not reflected in GDP. Also doesn't take into account GDP's effect on the environment. We say more is better, more production is better. We could be having a lot of pollution, a lot of negative consequences that aren't included. If you look back over time, we had the Great Depression in the United States, and one of the ways that that ended was through a global war. That increased GDP, it increased production, it gave people jobs and work again. So sometimes the things that increase GDP might actually be negative things. GDP does not measure the composition or distribution of income. So you can have production increasing where a few people are doing really well and everyone else in the economy is suffering. More production does not mean that everyone's lives are improving or the standard of life is improving. It ignores non-economic sources of well-being. Community, family, friends, connections that we have with each other are not measured in real GDP. There's a lot of things that we could do to increase our income and increase production that actually make us less happy, less connected, less fulfilled. And so while GDP is a useful measure, especially over very long periods of time, there's a lot that is lacking and things that we need to consider when we're using this as a standard measure of economic success or economic well-being. Let's look at an example. Oftentimes, if you look at a book printed in the United States, you will see that there is a different price in the United States versus Canada. In this barcode, we have $7.99 is the US price and $11.99 is the Canadian price. And we want to know how much does it cost. In addition to GDP, production values, prices in each country, we also have exchange rates and the fact that we're purchasing things globally. Exchange rates can change quite frequently, meaning the price of one currency in terms of another. And it may have nothing to do with the quality of book that you're purchasing. So I found a store that's selling one box of mystery books, and they are charging 75 Canadian dollars. How much is this in US dollars? September 19th of 2011 is going to give you a different value than September 19th of 2022. You can actually go and look up some exchange rates. So here's one website I found, but you can find other ones. This is exchangerates.org.uk, and you can look at the spot exchange rate for history. You can look up these two specific dates and see How much does $1 Canadian translate into $1 US? This is a good time to pause and go look this up. How much is 75 Canadian dollars? How much would this cost me in 2011? How much would this cost me in 2022? So is it cheaper or more expensive to buy things in Canada? It's going to depend on the exchange rate. Sometimes it's going to be more expensive to buy stuff in Canada. Sometimes it's going to be cheaper. Generally, there is an increased Canadian price on US books. Some of that has to do with politics and importing taxes, but some of that has to do with historical exchange rates. Canadian dollars used to not be worth as much as US dollars, and so US book companies wanted to charge more to make sure that they were going to be getting the same amount or equivalent amount of money. But you could see that in some years, when the exchange rate switches, this is actually much more expensive to purchase in Canada, twice as much money, rather than just $11.99 versus $7.99. The real rate, we might be looking over time, we want to take out inflation. We also may want to account for the exchange rate. If you're in the United States buying this book in Canada, it's going to cost you a different real rate in 2011 than it is in 2022. So exchange rates, inflation, all sorts of things affect the real price that you pay. And it's something that we will be considering further in other videos later this semester.